Ron Howard has always been seen as one of Hollywood's safest success stories. The child actor who grew up, avoided scandals, became a respected director, and built a long career without falling apart like so many young stars. From Opie Taylor to Richie Cunningham to winning Oscars, he looked like the perfect example of the American dream. Talent, hard work, and a good personality rewarded with huge success. But the real Ron Howard is far more complicated. The friendly director with the baseball cap has gone through deep personal crises, career failures, and moments of painful self-doubt that the public rarely knew about. People who worked with him say he always looked calm and professional. But behind that image was someone dealing with challenges no one ever saw. In recent interviews, and in his memoir, he finally began sharing the parts of his life he used to keep hidden: family problems, career mistakes, regrets, and personal losses that shaped who he became. Ron has spent his career telling other people's stories. For decades, he kept his own story private. The cheerful, dependable director image was easy to accept, but it never showed the real man. Now, looking back, he has revealed 5 major moments that changed him. Moments of struggle and transformation that mattered far more than the awards or box office hits. His rise from child actor to award-winning filmmaker looks smooth from the outside. But the truth includes painful sacrifices, setbacks, and private battles that never made headlines. These experiences shaped his movies and his approach to storytelling in ways audiences never realized. Ron has said he learned cursive writing at age 6 just so he could sign autographs. That early start turned into a life of non-stop work. But ambition has a price, and one decision from 1991 is something he still regrets deeply. At that time, he had built a strong directing career with films like Splash, Cocoon, and Back. He was about to take on his most ambitious project ever, Far and Away, starring Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. It required 6 months of filming across Ireland and Montana, a massive challenge and an important career step. But the timing couldn't have been worse. His wife had just given birth to their 4th child, their daughter, Jocelyn. Taking the job meant missing the first months of her life. Ron accepted the project anyway because he believed he had to. If he wanted to grow as a filmmaker, he tried staying connected with calls and family visits. But huge delays and complicated production work made him completely absorbed in the film. When he finally came home, he realized how big the cost was. His baby daughter didn't even recognize him. She treated him like a stranger. For a man who valued family so deeply, the moment hit him hard. He realized that in choosing the movie, he had missed irreplaceable moments. People close to him say that moment haunted him for decades. It forced him to rethink how he worked, how often he traveled, and how to include his family in his career. He began bringing his children to sets, letting them experience his work instead of disappearing for months. Ironically, despite all the sacrifices, Far and Away underperformed at the box office, making the regret even heavier. Ron has said he denied many things in life to avoid dealing with them, but one thing he couldn't ignore was his brother Clint's struggles. While Ron became a successful director, Clint, also a child actor, went through a difficult path with addiction. By the late 1980s, his addiction had become dangerous. Ron tried everything, but nothing worked until 1990, when he finally gave Clint an ultimatum: rehab or lose him. It was an emotional crisis for the whole family. Ron felt guilty that his own success made his brother feel left behind. Even though Ron never flaunted his achievements, the comparison between their lives was unavoidable. This guilt stayed with Ron for years, but the experience also deepened his empathy. Films like Parenthood and A Beautiful Mind reflect this understanding of family conflict and mental health, lessons drawn from real life, not just research. Over time, Clint got sober and continued acting, often appearing in Ron's films. But those years left a lasting impact on Ron's understanding of struggle and the limits of what he could fix. No matter how successful he became, Ron's biggest physical and emotional breakdown came during Apollo 13. The film required complex technical work, realistic zero-gravity scenes, and endless coordination with experts. Ron's perfectionism pushed him past the limits of his health. After 90 straight days of 18-hour shoots, he collapsed on set. His body shut down from exhaustion and dehydration. Production had to stop for 36 hours, something extremely rare and expensive in Hollywood. It shook Ron deeply. He had always been the dependable director who never failed, never lost control. Suddenly, he was forced to admit he had limits. The pause gave him time to reflect for the first time in years. He began questioning whether his work style was sustainable. After recovery, he changed small things, delegating more, pacing himself better, though he remained a hard worker. Ironically, Apollo 13 became one of his greatest successes, but the film nearly broke him physically. It taught him that even the strongest work ethic needs rest. Years later, in 2018, Ron faced a career crisis that almost ended everything. Solo, a Star Wars story. He wasn't the original director, He was brought in halfway through after the first directors were fired. Ron had to reshoot almost the entire film with limited time and huge pressure. He worked non-stop to fix the production without blaming anyone. But despite all the effort, the movie became the first Star Wars film to lose money. The fallout was serious. Studios questioned whether Ron was still the right director for big modern movies. The phone stopped ringing. He wondered if he had become outdated. The person who pulled him out of that crisis was his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, who had become a successful director herself. She encouraged him to return to storytelling he truly loved instead of chasing big commercial hits. Her support helped Ron rebuild confidence and choose projects that mattered to him personally. The failure of Solo, instead of destroying his career, reshaped it by forcing him to focus on purpose rather than pressure. In 2017, Ron faced another challenge, but this time it was deeply personal. Within just months, he lost his father, Rance Howard, who had been both his mentor and frequent collaborator, and his mother-in-law, who had been part of Ron's life since he was a teenager. These were devastating losses for someone who valued family above everything. At the same time, he was working on Rebuilding Paradise, a documentary about a wildfire disaster. He spent his days listening to survivors talk about the worst moments of their lives, while he was quietly grieving his own losses. Those who worked with him said they could see how emotional the project was for him. He was unusually open and visibly moved by the stories. He called it the hardest project he ever made, not because of directing challenges, but because he was carrying both the town's grief and his own at the same time. Ron has always been someone who keeps personal pain private and shows up to work no matter what. But during this project, the line between personal and professional blurred. His empathy, his openness, and his emotional honesty shaped the documentary in a way unlike anything he had made before. It became one of his most vulnerable pieces of work, created during one of the most difficult periods of his life.